Did you know that in the heart of the world's smallest country, the Vatican, there is a colossal secret? An archive with more than 85 kilometers of shelves, containing documents that have shaped the fate of millions of people, and perhaps the fate of humanity. They call it the Vatican Apostolic Archives, but most of us know it by another name, the Secret Archives. For centuries, only a select few have been allowed to set foot in this place. Even select scholars have had access to only the documents the Church has approved. The rest, vast, dark, and full of questions, remains locked away, hidden from public view. The big question always looms: what is inside? Just administrative paperwork, or truths that could shake up the entire history we thought we knew? On this journey, we will explore the invisible horrors hidden deep within the Vatican Secret Archives. Are you ready to uncover the secrets that have been kept hidden for centuries? Let's go. Part 1. The Underground View. What is the Vatican Archives? You might have seen the headlines saying that the Vatican Archives would finally be opened up to researchers. Some claimed that these secret archives held dangerous secrets about Jesus Christ himself, while others said it contained a list of all of the popes who had illegitimate children and covered up their existence. So what exactly are these secret archives? What will researchers find inside? And are there any obscure documents hidden away that the Church would rather keep secret? Well, here's what you need to know. The Secret View is brought to you with the help of a fantastic community. Their generous support helps us bring high-quality videos like this one to a broad audience. Want to join them? Check the links below. Many people are familiar with the term Vatican Secret Archives, though few can claim to know anything about it beyond what Hollywood films may have concocted. It is frequently mistaken for a vast storehouse of confidential documents containing material so scandalous or potentially dangerous that it must be kept away from prying eyes. Despite being located within the walls of Vatican City, the smallest country in the world, and a place that receives millions of visitors each year, the archives are actually almost impossible to find. They consist of over 85 kilometers of bookshelves, holding an estimated 35 million items, making them one of the largest collections of historical documents anywhere on Earth. To understand how these archives came into existence, we must go back to the origins of the Catholic Church. As the Church began to grow rapidly during the Middle Ages, it needed ways to preserve its records. In 1475, Pope Sixtus IV decided to establish a central archive, employing a team of scribes to sort through and categorize existing papers and ensure proper documentation for future papal activities. The Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, or the Vatican Secret Archives, were thus born. Unlike national archives, which typically hold important records from a country's government and citizens, the Vatican Archives contains mostly documents relating to the internal affairs of the Catholic Church, such as correspondence between popes and members of the College of Cardinals, financial records, legal cases, and records of canonizations, among other things. It also houses an array of fascinating miscellanea, including personal letters from historical figures like Michelangelo, Galileo Galilei, and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The archives even contain a letter from Queen Elizabeth I of England to Pope Sixtus V, asking for assistance in defeating the Spanish Armada. There are also reports on the construction of St. Peter's Basilica by Renaissance architect Donato Bramante, and the first known printed book in America, a copy of Isaiah brought back from the New World by Conquistador Pedro de Mendoza in 1539. In order to protect such valuable historical treasures, several measures have been taken throughout the years to safeguard them. The archives are housed in a labyrinth of reinforced concrete vaults deep beneath Vatican City, accessible only by a small number of specially selected individuals. Access to the archives was restricted in the mid-20th century, requiring visitors to obtain a special letter of introduction from the Vatican before being granted admission. While scholars have long been allowed to work in the archives, they must still submit a formal request to consult any documents they wish to study, with access granted at the discretion of the archivists. Each document must be examined and approved by a member of the Vatican before being brought out from the vault for researchers. Even then, they can only view one document at a time and must request permission to take notes or make copies. This level of secrecy has led to much speculation over the years regarding what kind of documents the Vatican may be hiding from public view. Some conspiracy theories suggest that the archives contain evidence of Jesus Christ's divinity, or proof that Mary, his mother, was miraculously conceived. Others claim that they hold records of secret pacts made between the Church and powerful world leaders, or evidence of the Church's involvement in various historical events. Still, others say the archives contain proof of the existence of extraterrestrials, or evidence that the Church has covered up claims of miracles and other paranormal phenomena. While it is true that some documents within the archives may be considered controversial or embarrassing to the Church, such as records of financial misconduct or allegations of heresy, there is no evidence to suggest that they contain anything truly shocking or heretical. The vast majority of the documents in the archives are simply mundane records of everyday business, such as letters and reports dealing with routine administrative matters. Indeed, the Vatican has never claimed that the archives contain nothing controversial. In fact, in 2013, Pope Francis stated that he believed the archives should be open to historians, with the exception of certain documents related to ongoing investigations or those that could compromise the privacy of individuals. So why are the archives kept so secret? The answer lies in the nature of the documents themselves. Most of the items in the archives are private and confidential correspondence between the Pope and members of the Church hierarchy. Making these documents public without the permission of those involved would be a violation of their privacy and could potentially cause scandal or embarrassment. Additionally, some documents may contain sensitive information about ongoing investigations or legal proceedings, and releasing them prematurely could jeopardize these efforts. Finally, allowing unrestricted access to historical documents could lead to their deterioration or even destruction. The Vatican has taken great care to preserve its collection, and strict controls are necessary to ensure that these priceless artifacts are not damaged. It is also worth noting that the archives have been gradually opened up over the years. In the past, scholars had to wait decades, even centuries, to access certain documents. However, since the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, the Church has become more open to the idea of sharing its history with the public. Today, researchers can access documents from as early as the 5th-10th century, a much earlier period than was previously thought possible. Furthermore, the Vatican has taken steps to make its archives more accessible to the general public. In recent years, millions of pages from the archives have been digitized and made available online, allowing anyone with an internet connection to view them. The Vatican also offers guided tours of the archives, providing visitors with a rare glimpse into this normally off-limits part of Vatican City. The opening of the Vatican Secret Archives is an important step towards transparency and accountability for the Catholic Church. By making its records more accessible, the Church is able to demonstrate its commitment to preserving history and allowing future generations to learn from the past. At the same time, it is also important to respect the privacy of individuals and the need to protect sensitive information. A balance must be struck between openness and confidentiality, ensuring that the rich history of the Catholic Church is shared with the world, while also safeguarding the privacy of those involved. As we come to the end of this video, we hope you have gained a better understanding of the Vatican Secret Archives and the important role they play in preserving the history of the Catholic Church. It is a testament to the dedication of the Church to its past that it has taken such great care to protect and preserve these invaluable documents for future generations. We also hope that you have learned about the ongoing efforts to make the archives more accessible to the public through digitization and guided tours. These initiatives are a positive step towards greater transparency and accountability for the Church, and we encourage them to continue. The Vatican is known worldwide as the center of the Catholic Church, a place where every Christian pilgrim dreams of visiting at least once in their life. But few know that inside its walls lies a secret so dark it can send shivers down anyone's spine. Are you curious? Want to know what secrets lurk in the shadows of the Vatican? Stay tuned till the end to find out. Part 2. Whispers from the Darkness. What we know. While much of the Vatican's history remains shrouded in mystery, there are some things we know about the darkest secrets hidden within its archives. So let's delve into the chilling tales contained in these ancient documents. First, we have the Inquisition trials. The Inquisition was a period of intense religious scrutiny and persecution, particularly during the medieval times. And the trials held during this era were a terrifying ordeal for those accused of heresy or other religious crimes. The Vatican archives contain a plethora of these trials, each detailing the interrogation and testimony of individuals accused of violating the Church's orthodoxy. These records are not just historical documents. They are a window into the dark side of religious fundamentalism. They show how the Church used extreme measures to maintain its dominance, and how ordinary people were subjected to unimaginable horrors in the name of God. Reading through these trials today, we can't help but shudder at the thought of the torture and suffering endured by the accused, their words echoing through time, a testament to the darkest days of the Inquisition. Moving on, we have the decrees and edicts. The Catholic Church has always been a powerful institution, and its decrees and edicts are a clear reflection of its influence throughout history. The Vatican archives contains a vast collection of these decrees, many of which had a profound impact on the course of European history. Some of these decrees brought order and structure to society, while others led to conflict, war, or painful change within communities. For example, one edict might address the spread of a deadly disease, while another might outline the rules for a religious order. Yet another could be a papal bull, a formal pronouncement on a matter of faith or morals. These decrees are not just relics of the past. They offer us a glimpse into the inner workings of the Church and the impact it has had on our world. By studying them, we can better understand the forces that shaped Europe and the world. Next, we have the forgotten controversies. The Vatican archives holds thousands of records relating to some of the most significant events in history. However, some of these records have remained largely overlooked until recently. These forgotten controversies offer a new perspective on major events, allowing us to see them in a different light. For example, the archives contain records of epidemics, political crises, and conflicts that were once overshadowed by more prominent events. Now, thanks to the efforts of historians and researchers, these forgotten controversies are being brought to light. As we delve into these records, we gain a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by those who lived through these events and the decisions that were made to preserve religious and social order. But here's the intriguing part. Despite these dark secrets, the Vatican remains a place of worship and pilgrimage for millions of Christians worldwide. The contrast between its sacred purpose and the sinister secrets it holds is what makes the Vatican archives all the more fascinating. It's as if the grandeur of the place is at odds with the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. The Vatican archives is a treasure trove of historical documents, offering an unparalleled glimpse into the past. While some of its secrets are truly horrifying, they are also a reminder of the importance of religious tolerance and understanding. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can work towards a more tolerant and compassionate future. Now, before we wrap up, we want to know what you think. Have you ever visited the Vatican? Would you like to see more of these dark secrets brought to light? Let us know in the comments below. Part 3. Beyond the Curtain, Unpublished Accounts and Speculations. Do you ever feel like there are certain secrets that some parties would kill to keep hidden from the public eye? Conspiracies that seem far-fetched until you realize there might be a grain of truth to them. Well, today we're diving deep into one such secret. What if I told you that the Vatican, the spiritual heartland of the Catholic world, holds secrets so profound that they could redefine our understanding of history itself? Buckle up as we unravel a tale of intrigue, faith, and forbidden knowledge. It all starts in the hallowed halls of the Vatican's secret archives, a treasure trove of historical documents that spans over 50 miles. These archives contain everything from ancient papal bulls to intricate star charts, and even personal letters between popes and kings. But here's the catch. Despite being part of the Vatican City, the smallest country in the world, access to these archives is tightly controlled. Scholars wanting to delve into these historical riches must first seek permission from the Holy See, outlining their research and credentials. But the process doesn't end there. Even after gaining access, researchers are only allowed to view documents under close watch within a restricted room. They cannot touch, smell, or even take notes. The Vatican provides a typewriter for note-taking. Can you imagine? This level of security raises eyebrows and fuels curiosity. So let's embark on a journey to uncover the truth. We will examine previously classified documents that have recently become available, explore chilling myths surrounding the archives, and discuss the ongoing debate about what else might be concealed within its depths. Are these restrictions part of a grand scheme to hide long-forgotten secrets? Or is there a simpler explanation? Join us as we navigate through history and shed light on this intriguing enigma. Part 2. Whispers in the Dark. As we peer into the dimly lit past, we come across fascinating tales from the early days of Christianity. The figure of Pope Julius II stands out, a man who laid the foundations for much of the art and architecture we admire today, including parts of St. Peter's Basilica. His tomb, crafted by the legendary Michelangelo, was supposed to hold an inscription praising his work. However, a strange twist of fate led to this plan being scrapped. Historians believe the inscription was removed due to criticism against the Pope, possibly regarding a controversial decision he made earlier in his career. Delving deeper into the archives, we stumble upon a letter written by a mysterious cardinal named Jean de la Roche, detailing a shocking incident during the siege of Constantinople in 1453. The Ottoman Turks were on the brink of victory, so Pope Nicholas V offered a plea for help to the Sultan. This unusual diplomatic mission was entrusted to Cardinal Bessarion, who successfully negotiated the safe passage of books, relics, and treasures out of the city. Bessarion's actions saved countless priceless artifacts, including writings by Aristotle and other Greek philosophers, which later became the foundation of Renaissance humanism. As we navigate through these historical accounts, we find ourselves questioning the nature of the secrets held within the Vatican walls. Could there be even more hidden stories waiting to be uncovered? Part 3. Beyond the Curtain. If the declassified files are enough to make us shiver, the real mystery lies in the depths that have never been published. It is a dark place where only a handful of scholars are allowed to enter, and almost always by signing a pledge of silence. It is rumored that in the Vatican archives, there are manuscripts never before seen by the world, from the original texts of the Council of Nicaea, which shaped Christian doctrine in the 4th century, to personal letters between popes and powerful kings. If revealed, these documents could shake up the way we understand the formation of Christianity in the history of Europe. Some theories go further, suggesting that there are extra-biblical records, alternate accounts of Jesus' life, or texts describing supernatural phenomena deliberately hidden by the Church to protect Orthodox doctrine. While no one has concrete evidence, the mere possibility of this makes the archive fertile ground for endless debate. Not only religion, but science is also caught up in this vortex of secrecy. Some researchers suspect that the archive also contains medieval and Renaissance scientific manuscripts, ideas about astronomy, medicine, even human anatomy that were once banned because they were against the faith. If true, such knowledge may have been buried for centuries, instead of becoming the foundation for modern science. What makes things even more tense is the way the Vatican manages its silence. It has always claimed that the archives are open to academic research, but in reality, only a very small number of scholars are allowed in, with a pre-selected catalog. The obvious question is, why such tight control if what is inside is just ordinary historical documents? The mystery makes people both curious and suspicious. Is the Vatican protecting the precious heritage of humanity, or is it hiding truths that could shake the faith of billions of believers? It is this suspension that makes the Vatican archives like a half-closed door, always inviting our imagination to go beyond reality. It makes this place not just a library, but also a symbol of power, the power to decide what is remembered and what is forgotten. If the declassified files are enough to make us shudder, the real mystery lies in the depths that have never been published. It is a dark area where only a few scholars are allowed to set foot, and almost always by signing a pledge of silence. The special thing about the Vatican archives is that no one can wander freely among the shelves. Scholars who want to access must send a request directly to the Holy See, along with extremely detailed academic profiles, where they research what their major is, what specific topic. If they cannot prove that they are a serious researcher and have a legitimate reason, their application will be immediately rejected. Even if they are approved, they are not allowed to enter the archives. There is no such thing as strolling down 85 kilometers of corridors and stumbling upon a secret manuscript. Instead, scholars must list the exact name of the document they want to study, and the Vatican will bring it out for them to see in a private room. What this means is, if you don't know a document exists, you'll never get to see it. If the Vatican doesn't want you to see it, it's invisible. It has this tight control that has led many to question whether this is no longer an ordinary archive, but a powerful machine that decides human memory, what is allowed to exist in the collective consciousness, and what must be erased from history. A scholar once frankly admitted, being allowed to step into the Vatican archives is like being allowed to look into a room in a huge palace. You see a piece, but never the whole picture. And that absence is exactly what makes people more curious, giving rise to the hypothesis that there are truths hidden behind doors that have never been opened. Part 4. Hidden Histories. Now let's shift our focus to a topic that has long been shrouded in secrecy within the Vatican walls: the story of Jesus Christ. Scholars have long debated the authenticity and content of non-biblical accounts of Jesus' life, often referred to as the secret history. These are writings that are not part of the canonical Gospels found in the Bible. They provide an alternate narrative of Jesus' life and teachings. The most famous example is the Gospel of Thomas, a collection of sayings attributed to Jesus. This Gospel, which surfaced in the 1940s, includes teachings not found in the Bible and challenges traditional Christian beliefs. It has led to questions about why such material was kept secret and what it reveals about the early development of Christianity. Some argue that these writings were intentionally suppressed to maintain a specific image of Jesus Christ. Others suggest that they were simply considered heretical and excluded from official religious texts. But what do these secret histories tell us about Jesus Christ? How do they differ from the biblical accounts, and how have they shaped our understanding of early Christianity? By exploring these questions, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity of Jesus' historical record and the enduring impact of faith and belief. The more we uncover, the deeper the rabbit hole seems to go. So remember, every great story starts with a single click. And if you've enjoyed this journey through history, please share it with others. Who knows? You might just enlighten someone else's day. Why does the Vatican keep secrets? Why is such a huge archive, containing more than 85 kilometers of documents, shrouded in such a thick veil of secrecy? The answer is not simply keep it secret because it is dangerous, but much more complicated. I'm the host, and this is the fourth part of our series about the Vatican's secret archives. Let's try to figure out why the Vatican keeps everything so secret. The first reason is to protect the memory of the Church. The Vatican regards this archive as its official memory, a place that contains all the records from the past 1,200 years. Decrees, letters, diplomatic reports, internal notes. It's like a huge library filled with ancient books, yellowed manuscripts, and dusty boxes. If these documents were made public without control, they could be misinterpreted, exploited, or even distort the image of the Church in the eyes of the public. For example, during the Reformation, when Protestantism split off from the Catholic Church, this could have been used as a weapon against the Pope. Imagine if Martin Luther had access to the archives. He could have found something compromising or distorted and used it to discredit the Church. So the decision to seal the archives was likely influenced by the desire to protect the unity and reputation of the Church. Controlling access to these documents allows the Church to present its history and teachings in the way it sees fit, ensuring that its memory is preserved and shared according to its own perspective. By keeping certain documents out of public view, the Church can avoid potential controversies, misinterpretations, or deliberate manipulations that could harm its credibility and cause internal division. The second reason is a little darker, controlling access to maintain prestige and power. Not just any scholar can enter here. To conduct research, you had to apply for permission, state your topic, your goals, and even prove your academic ability. Only then would you be granted a special badge allowing you to enter the archive. But even then, you could only access approved documents, which were within the scope of your research. This restriction created a double loop of control. Not only were few people allowed in, but even those who were allowed in saw only a very small part of the sealed ocean of knowledge. Such selectivity gives rise to legends and speculations, creating an aura of mystery and power around the archive. By carefully controlling who has access to these documents, the Vatican ensures that its knowledge and influence remain concentrated in the hands of a few, maintaining its prestige and power. Those who gain access to the archive become, in a sense, co-conspirators in this grand scheme, bound by secrecy and the weight of handling knowledge that is deemed too powerful to be freely available. The third reason is political and diplomatic. The archives contain countless diplomatic documents from the time of European dynasties up to the 20th century. They reflect the relationship between the Church and the states, but also contain sensitive details that could affect the image of governments, royal families, or even famous historical figures. Think about it. If every document was open to everyone, anyone could stumble upon a letter revealing a secret agreement, a hidden affair, or a forgotten threat. This could shake the foundations of modern society, destroy the reputation of influential families, or even spark international conflicts. In the wrong hands, this knowledge could be devastating. Therefore, the Vatican maintains strict control over access to these documents, safeguarding sensitive information and protecting the interests of individuals and nations whose secrets are held within the archives. This practice ensures that the delicate balance of power and trust between the Vatican and the world remains intact, preventing the disclosure of information that could disrupt diplomatic relations or cause irreparable damage to the historical legacy of the Church. Finally, the last reason is perhaps the most cynical. Silence is power. The more secretive and inaccessible an archive is, the greater its appeal. People love mysteries, especially when they're locked away and forbidden. The Vatican knows this, and perhaps is using that curiosity to bolster its image as custodian of sacred knowledge. Knowing that something is hidden, secret, and forbidden makes it more interesting, more important, and more influential. It's like a treasure waiting to be discovered. This creates a kind of magnetic pull, attracting the attention of scholars, journalists, and ordinary people who wonder what could be hiding behind the closed doors of the Vatican. This fascination contributes to the mystique surrounding the Catholic Church, making it seem more powerful, more mysterious, and more important than it actually is. But do you agree with all this? Is it really necessary to keep everything so secret? Or is the Vatican just afraid of losing its power and influence? The Vatican Archives. What horrifying secrets could they hold? The Vatican's secret archives, also known as the Vatican Apostolic Archives, consist of roughly 35 miles of documents preserved by the Roman Catholic Church since the year 750 AD. The oldest pieces of paper in the archive date back to the time of Charlemagne, while the most recent ones can be found no further back than the last few decades. Over 12,000 boxes filled with documents relating to church history over the past 1,000 years are kept in the Vatican near St. Peter's Square, hidden behind heavy steel doors and under lock and key. With some estimates claiming that only 2% of the documents held in the archives have actually been analyzed, there are probably countless treasures of historical knowledge hidden away inside. And because the Vatican is so notoriously tight-lipped about what goes on behind those closed doors, imaginations have run wild with what exactly the secret archives could contain. Today, let's dive into 5 terrifying things the Vatican archives might be hiding. Be sure to smash that like button and ring the bell for more such amazing videos. No. 5. Medieval heresy and torture records. What would you say is the scariest thing you've ever read in the Bible? Is it the story of the Antichrist? What about the abomination of desolation spoken of in Matthew 24, verse 15? Or how about the blood and fire that came from heaven in Revelation 14, verse 10? If you think those passages are terrifying, just wait until you hear about the atrocities committed during the medieval heresy trials. The Catholic Church has always seen itself as the one true church founded by Jesus Christ, and has historically persecuted anyone who disagreed with its teachings, ranging from ordinary people to high-ranking clergymen. Now imagine being forced to confess to crimes you didn't commit, and tortured until you admitted them. That was the fate of many accused of heresy. And if you thought that was bad, it gets worse. It is believed that the archives contain detailed records of thousands of heresy trials, including forced confessions, burning sentences, and descriptions of torture methods used on those convicted of heresy. Inquisitors would keep careful records of every trial they oversaw, documenting the heretics' deeds, their defense, any witnesses' testimony, and, most disturbingly, the punishments they faced. These accounts often included graphic descriptions of torture methods employed to extract confessions or punish heretics, such as waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and beatings. Historians who have studied the available records estimate that the full archive could contain up to 60,000 cases of alleged heresy. If the entire archive were ever made public, it could reveal a much more gruesome picture of the medieval period than has been acknowledged by mainstream history. So what exactly is the Church hiding in the archives? Why haven't these records been made public yet? We may never know. Number 4. Galileo and suppressed science. Galileo Galilei is a name synonymous with scientific discovery and innovation. But did you know that he was also involved in a controversy that shook the foundations of science and religion? In the early 1600s, Galileo turned his telescope to the night sky and made groundbreaking discoveries that challenged the long-held beliefs of the time. He saw that the Earth was not the center of the universe, as the Church had taught, but rather just another planet revolving around the sun. Of course, this went against everything the Church stood for, and Galileo was put on trial for heresy. He was forced to recant his findings and spent the last 9 years of his life under house arrest. But what if there's more to this story than meets the eye? Could there be evidence of the Church's persecution of Galileo hidden in the Vatican archives? It is widely believed that the archives contain records of Galileo's trial, including his written statements and the testimonies of witnesses. But rumors persist that there are still more unpublished documents that could reveal a greater level of scientific repression than we know, or even scientific ideas that have been buried for centuries. These documents could shed light on the extent to which the Church went to silence Galileo and other scientists, as well as uncover other instances of suppressed science and the true cost of challenging the status quo. However, the Church has been reluctant to release these documents, leading many to speculate about what it might be hiding. Are these documents too explosive to be made public? Could they reveal uncomfortable truths about the Church's role in stifling scientific progress? Only time will tell. No. 3. Letters of Pax with the Devil. Imagine sitting alone in a dimly lit room poring over ancient texts, the musty smell of aged paper filling your nostrils as you turn brittle pages. Suddenly, your eyes land on a passage that makes your blood run cold. You read on, your heart pounding in your chest, and the more you read, the more convinced you become that what you're holding in your hands is something truly evil. You've stumbled upon a pact with the devil. Such chilling tales are not uncommon in folklore and legend. But what if these stories are not just myths? What if there are actual records of pacts with the devil hidden away in the Vatican secret archives? Legend has it that the Church has kept top-secret handwritten notes detailing the names of historical figures who allegedly sold their souls to the devil. These individuals range from infamous witches to unsuspecting kings. While the authenticity of such claims is highly questionable, the mere possibility that these documents exist sends shivers down the spine. If true, these notes could offer a glimpse into a world where the lines between good and evil are blurred, and the consequences of making a deal with the devil are all too real. But the Church has been tight-lipped about such records, leaving us to wonder, does the Vatican really hold these terrifying documents close to its chest? No. 2. Evidence of the supernatural. Have you ever wondered if there is any truth to the existence of ghosts, demons, and other supernatural entities? What if I told you that the Vatican, the spiritual headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church, has files that may shed light on these mysteries? Rumors have been circulating for years that the Vatican keeps records of exorcisms, possessions, and other supernatural phenomena that have been meticulously investigated and documented by the Church. These documents are said to contain first-hand accounts of terrifying encounters with the unknown, offering a glimpse into a world where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. One of the most famous examples is the case of an Italian woman named Christina Aglier, who claimed to be possessed by a demon named Stavro. In 1975, she underwent an exorcism that was reportedly witnessed by several priests and even a bishop. If the account is to be believed, the ceremony was filled with dramatic events, including the levitation of the possessed woman and the shaking of the crucifix. The case was eventually deemed authentic by the local bishop, and the story became the basis for the 1973 film The Exorcist. While skeptics argue that such accounts are nothing but elaborate hoaxes or the product of overactive imaginations, believers insist that they are genuine accounts of terrifying encounters with the supernatural. And they believe that the Vatican's secret archives contain many more such stories. However, the Church has been notoriously tight-lipped about these claims and has refused to release any documents that could shed light on the truth. So what exactly is the Church hiding? Is it trying to protect the faithful from the horrors of the unknown, or is there something else going on? No. 1. The missing pages of the Bible. If you're a Christian, you've probably heard about the Gospel of Judas Iscariot. This book tells the story of Jesus from the perspective of his disciple Judas, who betrayed him. It was discovered in 1945 and supposedly written in the 3rd century, roughly 80 years after Jesus' crucifixion. Despite being called the Gospel of Judas Iscariot, it wasn't included in the Bible. Why? Well, because it paints Jesus in a very different light than the 4 Gospels in our holy book do. He is portrayed as a two-faced Savior who spoke in parables to hide his true teachings from unworthy listeners. Now imagine if all the stories in the Gospel of Judas Iscariot were true. How would that change what we know about Christianity? What if there are other texts like the Gospel of Judas Iscariot in the secret archives? Texts that go against the stories we find in our Bibles. What if the church purposely hid them so that they couldn't undermine the scriptures we read today? This is just one of many theories surrounding what the church could be hiding in the archives, but it's the most popular one by far. If true, the entire foundation of Catholic theology could be challenged, and the church would have to face some uncomfortable truths about its past. But the truth is, we may never know. The Vatican Apostolic Archives are the most secure place in the world. How does it protect itself? To understand the level of protection, let's look at what it's protecting. We're talking about the history of Christianity, the deeds and letters of popes and cardinals, and many, many other things. There are hundreds of thousands of historical documents stored here, many of which are unique. And all of these documents are incredibly well protected. Let's start with the main thing, absolute security. Anyone can wander around the British Library or the National Archives, at least among the open stacks. The Vatican Apostolic Archives are not a place where you can wander around looking for documents. On the contrary, the protection mechanism is built on many layers to strictly control every step of access. No free search. Anyone who wants to research must submit an application in advance, along with an exact list of documents to be consulted. If the application is approved, they will be granted access to that part of the document, no more. This principle applies to everyone, even bishops and cardinals. Only the Pope has the right to read any documents without restrictions. Researchers also face strict location and supervision. The archives are located deep within the Vatican grounds, locked up with access control, surveillance staff, and a logbook. So the idea of breaking in, taking photos, and copying the entire archive is almost impossible. In fact, the biggest historical leak of Vatican documents did not come from some intruder like in the Hollywood movies, but mainly from people within the system. A typical example is the Vatileaks case in 2012 and 2015, when Paolo Gabriele, the Pope's butler, stole and published many internal documents. This was a big shock, but also showed that the risk often lies with internal personnel, not outsiders who break in. Of course, there are also technical means of protection. Important documents are kept in fireproof and waterproof vaults. But if someone manages to get inside, they may still face another problem. Many documents are written in cipher. They are decrypted by a special service of the Vatican Secret Archives. It stores the keys to these ciphers. In short, there are very few people who know about them, and even fewer who can use them. So if you manage to sneak into the archives, don't expect to immediately find and take out the Holy Grail. You may also need a personal Vatican cryptologist to help you. Stories about the person who sneaked into the vault and found a top-secret letter exist only in legends or unproven hypotheses. But why is it so hard to get into the archives? Is there really something so terrible hidden there? Why do they keep it all secret? In fact, there are two answers to this question. The first one is quite simple. The Vatican is afraid of leaks. And indeed, throughout its history, it suffered greatly from this. Letters of popes, instructions, reports, they were published without the consent of the Church. And then people began to draw conclusions, sometimes very controversial ones. And the second reason is much more interesting. The Vatican is afraid of losing control over the narrative. What if someone finds something that could shake the foundations of the Church? The Inquisition files are a good example. They were opened in the mid-19th century. At first, historians had access only to a small part of the documents, and only under the supervision of monks who were forbidden to leave the monastery. Later, scholars got the right to take notes, but photography and filming were still prohibited. It was only in the late 20th century that the ban on taking pictures was lifted, but the monks still had to manually review each note and take it out. All this was done to prevent a scandal. In fact, this fear is understandable. Imagine you are a historian working in the Vatican, and you find a document proving that one of the popes was, for example, a Freemason. Now what? Publish a book and destroy the reputation of the Church, or burn the document and become the only person who knows the truth? What would you choose? But the Vatican still realized that such a policy would not work. Gradually, they began to open archives for research. For example, since 2020, the records of the reign of Pope Pius XII have been released. True, the opening was not complete. Scholars still cannot see the personal files of the Pope, but even this is enough to find many new data. Yes, this process is slow. In 2021, the Church announced that it would open the remaining archives of the Second Vatican Council. This event is scheduled for 2025, but this is still better than nothing. Thanks to these gradual openings, historians now have access to tens of thousands of documents that were previously unavailable. This is enough to stimulate academic debate, and that's the real progress. So if your goal is to find the truth, the right path is to get official permission with a clear academic record. Search for secondary sources through books, journals, and research, or cooperate with universities and research institutes. This will increase your chances of approval. In short, the Vatican is a closed but not impenetrable fortress, and those who really want to get inside have a chance. With this security mechanism, it can be said that the Vatican not only protects the documents, they also protect the mystery and the right to control how that mystery is revealed to the world.